the Sports Podcasting Network.
Terminó en Axel Schwarzenegger.
Va a pegarle Ronaldinho Gaucho. Ya lo hace. Pierna derecha, directo al arco. ¡Golazo! ¡Golazo! ¡Golazo!
This is Soccer Today, live on SPN Radio, your new live show about the beautiful game in all its glory, with Duane, Rollins and Kevin Laramee. MLS, EPL, La Liga, Champions League, all is fair game. Powered by the Sports Podcasting Network. Visit us at sportspodcastingnetwork.com.
Good day, good night, and welcome to Soccer Today with Duane Rollins and myself, Kevin Laramee. I am very happy to be joined by Alexi Lalas of Fox Sports today. Alexi, how you doing this morning?
I'm good. I'm in Los Angeles traffic, heading, where am I going? I'm heading to the studio, the Fox studio, to do some Champions League action, and after an eventful weekend of MLS. So thankfully for me and for all of us that work in soccer, there's always another game.
There's always another game. Speaking of MLS, tonight there's a game, Philadelphia-Toronto. Toronto having an amazing season, but Philadelphia having a monkey in the wrench yesterday, having to scramble and find a charter flight to get to Toronto with their commercial flight being canceled. What is your thought on charter flights in MLS? It's an issue over the last few years that we've seen team being unhappy with, and we know you're really opinionated about the subject, but what do you think about charter flights in MLS?
Well, I think that if a club feels that it's appropriate from an economic perspective for them to spend the money to charter, I think they should be allowed to do it. As you and your listeners know, and if you don't, MLS was built on manufactured parity and making sure that there is not too much competitive advantage. And so they have limited the amount of not just flights, but legs that a team can actually use during a season. And make it equal for all the different teams. Some of them use the full allotment, some of them don't even use the full allotment. But the fact is that if and when a team is able to chart throughout the entire year, they are going to gain a competitive advantage. Now, I think that there are moments where you can say, you know what, if that's just what you want to do, that you should be able to do that. But keep in mind, though, if you are one of those teams that doesn't want to spend that money, you are going to be almost forced or shamed into doing it because your fans are going to say, well, why aren't you doing it? Everybody else is doing it. Other players are going to say, well, I don't want to go play over there because they don't charter. So it is an arms race type of situation that I understand from a business perspective and a competitive standpoint, but we're getting to the point right now where all other professional teams, for the most part, travel charter. If you have owners that have deep pockets and they want to spend it, and they're not just spending it on frivolous stuff, they're actually spending it on the players, and they're valuing the players in doing so. I think they should be allowed to do it.
Alexi, Duane Rollins here. I'm wondering, just to follow up on that, whether or not you feel that manufactured parity is sort of eroding away anyway. You have three DPs. There are clearly haves and have-nots in this league. You talk all the time about needing a super team to really jump forward and launch this league into the next stage. Is the era of it truly being a parity league, top to bottom, done now?
Well, it's certainly night and day from when we first started. So you're absolutely right that this separation has become. Now, relative to leagues around the world, it's not even close. It's still very much a league of parity. And as you guys know, next to impossible to predict MLS. So if you guys can do it, or if you find someone that can do it, hats off to them for being able to do it. But I do think, as you mentioned, that some of those training wheels are coming off, and there are many restrictions that are being lifted or at least eased in terms of what teams can do and the amount of money, and that's good. That's good for us as not just as people in the business, but also as fans, because it means that you are adding more money to the product on the field, and it becomes more valuable. So I'm excited. I do think that you are right in that it is starting to that parity is starting to dissipate a little bit, but I don't think it's going completely away for a long time. But you're going to have your separation. I mean, for example, in Toronto, they broke the bank a few years ago, and it sent a message not just to Toronto but to the league that this is the type of stuff that if given the opportunity we can and will do, and I think those are good messages to send.
You mentioned manufactured parity, Alexi, and if you're looking at the Eastern Conference table, it's very top heavy. We have teams like Chicago, the New York City FC, and especially Toronto battling for the Shield, with teams in the Western Conference being few points behind. How important is the fact that the Eastern Conference has both DC United and New England Revolution to the fact that Toronto's battling for the Shield?
Yeah, I mean, look, this ebbs and flows, and each year people ask me, why is the West stronger? And this year it's why is the East stronger? Look, I don't know. I don't have an answer to that other than, some of these there's a natural ebb and flow, but also there's some of these, if you say 3 or 5 year plans, they take that time and sometimes even longer to come to fruition. And some teams, for example, Toronto, I think last year was incredibly important for them because it lit a fire. And you can see that this is a team that's on a mission, not just for Supporter Shield, but obviously to get back and to get that holy grail, which is MLS Cup. So I think a combination of a lot of different things. I think it's good for the league, especially because for the most part, the Western Conference has dominated and have been, at least in general thinking, the stronger type of conference. That's certainly not the case this year, and it shapes up for something very, very interesting. But also, as you guys know, once you hit those playoffs, all sorts of craziness can happen, and that's part of the good stuff. But it also means that just because something happens in the regular season doesn't necessarily mean that it continues on into the postseason.
It's rivalry week in Major League Soccer, Alexi, and over the last 2 years, a big rivalry has emerged. Of course, Montreal, Toronto. We've seen the Eastern Conference home and away last year, which to this day might be the craziest home and away series I've seen. What is the biggest rivalry, in your opinion, in Major League Soccer right now?
Well, I tell you what, we were there. We were in Toronto last year when for that Montreal and Toronto series, and it was incredible. And obviously, it takes on a whole new light because of the country aspect of it, which is wonderful. It's wonderful for the people involved, but it's also wonderful for us on the outside to check it out. Look, I think that right now, when you're looking at a Seattle-Portland game, which we will see this weekend, you can't go wrong with that. And then on the other side of the coast. Now, I think this New York Red Bulls NYCFC situation is really, really heating up, and really fun to see how those teams match up together, especially because they're both flying right now, and it's no longer the little NYCFC that's just kind of there and it's interesting and they're spending money.
You mentioned the Toronto, Montreal, and sort of the importance on the country level. I want to touch on that a little bit more. We're of course located in Canada up here, where we've been having sort of a debate for a few years now about what MLS's role, what MLS's gains and purposes are in this country. I'm just wondering, from your outside perspective, what you think MLS has brought to Canada, and whether you think it's important for Canadian soccer to rise its overall level of game up to push the overall region to higher heights.
Yeah, so while I love to think that a league like MLS has a mandate to help whether it's U.S. player in the United States or the Canadian player in Canada, I believe that it's a business, and it has to do what is proper for that business. And it does not have a responsibility to help a national team or to help the players of those domestic of those countries. Having said that, though, I do think that it has brought not just a business, but an excitement. And I do think that it has helped out when it comes to giving that otherwise wouldn't be given the professional opportunity or the level of professional opportunity in relationship to the past. So that's all good stuff. You guys know much more than me, and we try to figure it out, and we scratch our heads down here about why Canadian soccer isn't better. And I'm sure there's a list of reasons that you guys have and that everybody has, both stuff on the field and off the field. And it's unfortunate from afar when we look at it, because I want Canada to be successful. I want Canada to be in the hex. I want U.S.-Canada games to be something where I don't feel that the result is already predetermined because the United States is better. And that's something that we're not there yet. I hope that MLS can play a part in doing it, but just keep in mind that it's not necessarily their responsibility. It might be a byproduct, but first and foremost, this is a business, whether it's the entire business, as we mentioned, that manufactured parity, it comes from the fact that this is a single entity and the whole is bigger than its parts. But within that whole are parts and specific parts that can be incredibly important and influential, like the teams up in Canada for that country.
All right, that's changing gears a little bit here. You mentioned NYCFC a moment ago, and I want to talk about Patrick Vieira a little bit and his success so far as a manager in this league. I remember when he came in, there was a lot of skepticism over his hiring. He hadn't managed a first team before. He'd come with the EDS program over at Manchester City, obviously a highly successful player. Since then, we've seen other managers come in that didn't necessarily have that sort of MLS experience in the past, and has sort of turned that narrative on its side about whether you need MLS experience. I'm wondering what your thoughts are on that, whether you think that we're in an era now where we no longer require that deep MLS experience before a manager can come in and be successful.
Yeah, it's interesting. I was talking about this on our Fox broadcast this weekend, because I think that we are seeing the demise of the young, inexperienced domestic type of coach, because there's a recognition that while we continue to spend more and more on the product on the field, spending more and having people with thicker resumes when it comes to coaching is also something that's going to happen. And so when you see, for example, the return of Bob Bradley to Los Angeles, or Ziggy Schmidt now in Los Angeles, or Tata Martino in Atlanta, or even Patrick Vieira, who, as you mentioned, doesn't have a lot of experience, but he had some pretty good experience in terms of the club that he worked at in the youth levels, and he's done a wonderful, wonderful job. But this era of the player finishing his career, walking off the field, retiring, and then going right into a head coaching job, which we've seen plenty of times. And I think if you look at it, some of them have had success, but not all of them. And it might not even be their own fault. It's just the reality is they have very little experience, and they are given the keys to the kingdom there. And it's very difficult sometimes to figure it out while you're on the job. Some of them do, and some of them don't. We saw Pablo Mastroianni get fired this week, who stepped right off the field and into the hot seat. I think we're going to see less of that and more people looking. And it doesn't necessarily mean looking overseas. You can look overseas in a la Patrick Vieira or Tata Martino, but also within the countries. And so the lower divisions, whether you're talking in the United States, we're talking or Canada, USL and NASL and these types of teams, because there's some very good quality and experienced coaches that I think just need to be given the opportunity. So Patrick Vieira I love, because at least he came over, and so many people talk about style of play and patterns and philosophy, and it's all a bunch of BS, if you ask me, for the most part. But there are certain times, and I think Patrick Vieira, NYCFC is one of them, where they actually, you can see it, they talk about it, and they actually do it. They play out of the back, come hell or high water. They risk. They recognize that there is a risk involved, and they continually do it. And I got a lot of respect. I'm a romantic at heart for somebody that says, this is how we're going to play, and then actually goes out and does that, even risking losing and even risking taking goals, because they believe that that is the style and that they are going to establish it and they are going to play it regardless of the situation or the circumstance.
Alexi, thank you very much for your time today, and we're wishing you a great Champions League today.
Thanks, guys.
Talk to you soon. We'll be right back after the break.
You are listening to Soccer Today, live on SPN Radio. Visit sportspodcastingnetwork.com for more.
And we're back on Soccer Today. Duane Rollins with myself, Kevin Laramee. Duane, you know what I really take from this interview with Alexi is the fact that he's right. Why is Canadian soccer that bad?
Well, I think that I have about 8 years of narrative history.
Have about a 30,000 word essay coming out like this on this in Canadian soccer. Well, there's probably this already existing. You would just add all the articles together.
Yeah. Well, and like I say, I mean, I have a pretty massive archive out here where I've expressed my opinion on this over the years. I think that what I will say quickly about that is that what I always say is that people want to look for simple solutions on that, and they want to like also paint Canadian soccer in the broadest and worst possible light. And there's been obviously some low moments. 8-1 obviously jumps out, but I think that there are it's trending slightly upward. It's just not as quick as some people would like. And certainly the Gold Cup was promising. And it's nice to see Atiba Hutchinson back for that. We didn't talk about the lineup that was announced for the game in Toronto because it's a friendly, and we'll focus on it when it gets closer. But Atiba Hutchinson's back on that lineup. I think that's a worthwhile thing. As I was saying during the Gold Cup,
the impact going to miss Piet, like Crepeau, like Anthony Jackson, like just before the playoffs. Yeah, good job. Yeah, not happy about it, but whatever. It's friendly.
It's what it is.
It is what it is.
Been dealing with Bradley. Yeah, you got good players. They're going to get called up sometimes. That's the nature of the beast. But yeah, no, we'll talk about that game when it rolls around. It's one of those things that I've ignored for now. But
you know what, Duane? You just remind me something. So let's talk about it for a second. Last Wednesday, Montreal played at home, right? And I was talking to Daniel Lovitz after the game, and I was saying, Daniel, are you surprised by the opportunity that you're getting this year? The amount of playing time, especially over the last 290 minutes, where you're basically becoming the left back option, even though Montreal got Sean Francis to maybe take care of that Oyongo injury. You're still getting that playing time, that opportunity. And you're like, well, yeah. It's like when I came here, I recognized that I would have gotten a chance when Oyongo would go on international break. So it goes a little bit with what we were saying, that it's actually, it helps players when they're looking at the depth chart, like, okay, he's an international, which means I'm going to have maybe an opportunity 2, 3, 4 times a year more than I would just being the backup. And maybe it will be my chance to take that opportunity, be successful, and maybe get that starting role. And Daniel Lovitz is slowly working to that, but it's interesting to hear that from a player himself, where it does matter the fact that a player is international, and it does give an opportunity to maybe the backup of that position.
And look, it works the other way too, where you're an international and you worry about going away on international breaks. It's famous. We talked about Canadian soccer for years, a lot of those guys, and that's one of the reasons it was so important to get domestic options all those years ago, and why it's going to be more important moving forward to get more, is because a lot of these guys in the past would go away on international break for Canada and lose their starting position permanently because the backup would roll in and be better. And as the depth of MLS continues to grow across the board, and it is across the board, that's why we have conversations with deepest team ever, et cetera, is because the depth just across the board is bigger. Then this is going to be more of a problem and more of an issue for some of these guys, or it's either an opportunity or an issue, depending on what side of that equation you're on, right? So for sure that happens. I think we like to sometimes think, teams are all lovey-dovey and everyone's, best friends on there. But the reality is they're competing against each other within the team concept to try and both make the team better, but also to take that position over to benefit their own career. That's the reality of it. And a player like Lovitz, of course, would look at that. And the last thing I want to say about Daniel Lovitz is please tell me when he scores a headed goal that you sing Lovitz in the air.
Oh my God. Nobody thought about that one here yet. So let me just take my phone and text a few friends, and it might be sung next time he scores.
Yeah. I love it in the air. I got to give credit. Credit to the vocal minority podcast. They're the first people that did that when he was back in Toronto.
Did I ever tell you my Martin Stevens story? I don't think
go ahead.
All right. So it's about I think it was like a golf tournament a few years ago. Golf Centrals here in Laval, to not name it. And we're there. We're like, I have a few uncles that, let's put it this way, are resourceful and know people. So we're there. It's a party. It's like it's a family golf tournament with like 15 people. Like, all right, everyone, let's get ready for our entertainment of the night. We all look at each other. Entertainment of the night? What do you mean entertainment of the night? We have like somebody coming for singing. Then Martin Stevens shows up, and my uncle looks at everyone like, "All right, guys, he's got only 5 minutes. He's gonna go sing his hit somewhere else after. Come on, Martin, let's go." Love is in the air.
Woo. Okay, there you go. That's kind of funny. When you said entertainment for the night, my mind went to worse places. But I guess it was a family event. So
it was a family event, and Martin Stevens came and sang his hit. His singular.
That's kind of, in some level, that's kind of sad that he's doing stuff like
It's
that.
sad that my uncle said it that way. Yeah. I was like, geez, poor guy. Give the guy a break. Let him, like, I don't know, let him feel good about himself for once.
At least give him some like garlic bread and cheese or something to eat or something. I don't know.
Should have fed him. Anyways, tonight there's a lot of games, but this afternoon too, yesterday as well, Champions League. And I don't know if you watched the Sevilla versus a team.
I did. That's the one I watched.
Me too. A team from from Turkey.
It's the Turkish. Yeah.
I'm not even going to try to pronounce the name, but it has Clichy, Emery in it, and I was quite impressed by that team. Adebayor. Yeah, I wasn't impressed by Adebayor. So that's kind of he played like he usually play. But if it wasn't for that post, they would have upset Sevilla. It was 2-0. They came back down on the draw to make it 2-2, to make it 4-2 on aggregate. And they had an opportunity. It was 4-3 at the end. And Emery gets a free kick just maybe 20 yards out. It looks like it's going in. The keeper's beaten. The wall is just nothing they could do. The ball just goes higher than them. And it's going, hits the post, and Sevilla survives the scare.
It was a great tie. I watched both halves of that tie. Actually, it was a very entertaining tie. Both sides. The Turkish side, which was it's Istanbul's fourth team, is what it is. But traditionally speaking, and then they've been way down. But with Galatasaray and Fenerbahce have sort of fallen on some tougher times of late for them. They're still up near the top, but both of them are both Europa League teams this year, and that's allowed Besiktas and this club, which is something that starts with B. You're right. I don't necessarily know how to pronounce it without butchering it myself.
It's like Besiktas, but it's not. It's like Besiktor. So that team. The orange sweater, exactly. Just orange, like not half orange, just orange.
Well, and like every major, most European leagues like that, the top 4 or 5 teams are all from the biggest city, and this is the case there. But nonetheless, it was a highly entertaining, and they've obviously spent the money to bring in kind of guys like Creepy and a lot of our. And I mean, there are guys like that.
Emery too. Emery was at Liverpool just a few months ago.
Yeah, well, precisely. Yeah, and you got on the other side of the ball, you saw Jesus Navas, who kind of struggled at Manchester City and was absolutely brilliant for City in the two try.
Yeah, Nolito had a good game yesterday too.
Yeah, there was a lot of content there that Premier League fans would have been familiar with, but certainly it was an exciting. It's everything, but that's why the Champions League, why UEFA brought this playoff round into what they call it the Champions League now. You get the music, you get the whole production values, you get it treated just the same way as they treat the group stage and beyond. And it's a big money maker for them for sure. But I think it adds something. I think it is valuable. When they first did it a few years ago, like many people, I was a little cynical about it. I thought it was just about trying to, use a crude analogy about painting or whatever, whatever. I thought that they were trying to shine the turd, basically. But way that they do the draw now, you get good matchups like this, and it's a great appetizer for the actual group stage. And in some ways, the group stage, because there's so much on the line for these teams, right? Like you saw how devastated the Turkish side was when they couldn't get that last goal. They were so deserving. It was such an exciting last 15 minutes.
It's about millions of dollars, right? That's what it's all about.
Yeah,
it's millions and millions of dollars. So it makes a big difference if you get in or not. And can you imagine you get maybe a chance to play like a Madrid or Barcelona or something, and that changes your club forever. If you're a club like Rijeka, they lost, it won't be them, it's Olympiacos, but just saying, it could have been, and it puts your club on the map. Today, I wanted one more game I wanted to talk about yesterday before I moved to today, Duane. Astana Celtic. Celtic were arrogant. Yes, they won the tie at the end still. But they lost the game 4-3 to Astana. The club from Kazakhstan came back and at least put up a show and a performance for their fans.
Yeah, look, and that, they were down 5-0 going into the tie. So you can understand a little bit from Celtic. I'm going to defend Celtic a little bit here, that you can understand why they would have rotated a bit and why they would have maybe not as gone out as intense, because they don't want to get hurt in a tie like that. And it obviously meant a lot for the other side. So, good for them. And that's another brilliant thing you get in the Champions League sometimes. You get these massive, you get the night outs. Like, these are clubs that aren't, to them, Celtic is still an historic team. They won a European Cup. I mean, it was in 1967 or whatever it was, so a long, long time ago. But nonetheless, it's still something that they did that not many clubs in the world have done, and it's certainly a historical name that everyone in the world knows of, even if they've even if Scottish football is not quite where it once was. So it's a great night for all of them, and that's. I know a lot of people are still very cynical. A lot of people are cynical about modern football, quote unquote. Speaking of which, City bought another club yesterday. There you go. But nonetheless, it still has moments like that.
No, exactly. So let's move on to today's game quickly. Moscow Young Boys will be interesting after the terrible own goal of the first game from Young Boys. They score in their own net to give the Red Army the upper hand. We'll see how they travel and play today. There's a Stoa Bucharesti against Sporting Lisbon. Will be interesting with all that's going on now with Sporting Lisbon over the last few weeks. Liverpool Oppenheim, the team that was talking about last week, where they have the very young coach that started a trend in Bundesliga. Yes, he's still the youngest of them all, but he started that trend a few years ago with Oppenheim, and we'll continue to see. I wouldn't be surprised if Oppenheim put on again a great opposition to Liverpool today.
Well, yeah, a fourth place in Bundesliga is not to sniff at. And as you say, his great strength is he's very much, he's the keyboard manager, they call him, right? And he changes formations. They don't play one fluid style. Hoffenheim is a fascinating team to watch in the Bundesliga just because they're so unpredictable that way. And although they have a history that makes a lot of German fans not like them, I am from a North American mindset, so I find their story interesting and intriguing. So, the Germans can fight me on that one if they want, but nonetheless, it's a strange little cultural thing. The idea that you can't invest money to raise yourself up to another level. I don't fully get it, but I'm not German. So
by the way, we never mentioned his name. We just say the Offenheim coach because we both feel like we're going to butcher it. I'm going to give it a shot. Julian, so it's not too bad. It's Nagelsmann, I think. Nagelsmann, I think.
There you go.
But yes, he's born in 1987, so he's 30 years old now. So, Duane, I'm older by like 3 full years than a Bundesliga head coach. There you go. And we won't talk about your. So I don't know what it means for you, but yeah.
Yeah.
What were you doing when you?
I can remember the year of his birth.
Exactly. Oh yeah, I was at this. This song was good. 1987. That
was the year the Blue Jays blew their big lead in the last couple of weeks of the season to the Detroit Tigers. So it was a very devastating sports year for me. Also the year of the famous Mario Gretzky passed. So if you want to get a couple Canadian sports references into this,
Gretzky to Lemieux,
which is the greatest hockey game that I can still remember watching. Obviously I am watching that through the eyes of a child at that point, but nonetheless, older than you, but nonetheless, I wide-eyed optimism back then. Anyhow, sort of the Philly thing. We talked about it with Alexi, but maybe we should address it ourselves. I don't know what to say beyond.
They can't catch a break now. Like Andre Blake is like kind of back 100% now, and you have Rosenberry on the mend, and it's like, all right, Philly, it's time to get the push to the playoff. But yeah, your flight's been canceled, so just stay here. We'll try to get you a charter flight, but you might be a little late to Toronto.
Yeah, we're all laughing up here that it's going to be like the Charleston Chiefs, they'll hanging out the bus way out to the border.
Someone making holes on the bus to make it like more threatening.
Yeah, exactly.
What are you doing?
Making a lot of menacing Indiana references in this thing. Slap shot there, folks. But anyway, trade me right now.
You know what? We should make a slap shot soccer version. This thing would be amazing. So if you know any Hollywood producers or writers, free kick. Let's call it
21 Thunder. Might be one.
Yeah, but it's a TV show. Anyways, it's 2017. Nothing will ever get like cultish and stuck in people's collective consciousness like Slapshot back then.
Well, that's an interesting pop culture conversation. What was the last true cult movie? Dazed and Confused, maybe, and that's almost 20 years old now. I'm trying to think.
I don't know what Dazed and Confused. Never saw.
Superbad's what, 10 years old? That's kind of guy.
It never really got into it. It got there for a second, but then went away. It lasts 2 minutes. It lasts 2 weeks now. Something like that. Oh yeah, it's big, and then it's whatever happened to Pokemon Go? Exactly.
I saw a bunch of people gathered in a circle the other day, and they were playing Pokemon Go. I was like, oh my god, that thing's still out. And
exactly. And then you heard their mother call them for lunch because it was noon, and they're all 8-year-olds. Anyways.
Exactly. All right, no, we're way off the rails now.
Oh yeah, no, exactly. If for some reason Wednesday it feels like a Friday, but MLS tonight, Duane. There's a few games, a lot of games actually tonight for a Wednesday. Busy times in MLS, right? Those Gold Cup summers, you have a condensed schedule. Columbus, LA, DC, Atlanta, Battle of the Uniteds, FC Dallas Dynamo, Texas Derby, TFC Philly, battling in the Eastern Conference, Vancouver, Seattle, RSL, San Jose, and Portland, Colorado.
Yeah, big midweek schedule. So fun if you like that stuff. Not so much for the players, obviously. Advantage for the impact for the weekend for sure. Who do they have ringing the bell? They brought a Hab in, I think. So they're really rub it in. Anyway,
Andrew Shaw will be there Sunday to ring the bell against Toronto.
So, or not, as the case may be. GSP didn't get the chance to ring it. I remember.
I remember those. I remember that drawing of I think it's MLS Drawist or some. Sorry if I butcher your name on social media. Drew a sad GSP face and with the bell. He's like, "Why no goals? I wanted to ring the bells. I am disappointed by your performance."
I can still see GSP walking away as the TFC fans are chanting, "Who are you? Who are you? Who are you, Adam?" Everyone knows who GSP is in this country at any rate. Finally,
then he was
clicked in.
Then he looked at the crowd, looked at TFC supporters, and says, "Yes, I'm not impressed by your performance."
I think that there was a moment because GSP's English isn't spectacular. I don't think so. I think he kind of clued in. Oh, that's funny. Yes, you all know who I am, but you're ironically telling me you don't. I got it now.
Do you know who I am? I'm the champ.
Exactly. Speaking of Saturday, so does McGregor have a chance on Saturday?
Oh,
might keep going non-soccer here for a while.
They got me. I can't believe actually how many times have I told you about stuff that's never going to happen? First time somebody's DJ Drogba's coming to Montreal. What? What are you saying? That's never going to happen. Sometimes it does. Mayweather McGregor, that fight will never happen. What's the point? Oh yeah, money. True.
Well, yeah. I'll tell you what, I was at forget the name of this bar, but I was at a bar called the Dog's Bollocks for dinner last night. I just grabbed a sandwich just before I came home. And I was sitting there for about an hour watching the end of the Champions League game and then sat for a little bit after that. And during that time, not a word of a lie, the phone rang 4 times, and all 4 times the answer was, "No, we're not taking reservations for Saturday." So this thing's going to get some traction. Don't kid yourself. So, but nonetheless.
And does he? I don't know if he has a shot because Mayweather's Mayweather, and it's kind of hard to put your hands on him. So I still feel it's going to be a shit show, and Mayweather's going to humiliate McGregor. We'll see.
Well, here's the thing, though. McGregor's savvy enough, I think, and I do believe this, that he might let McGregor stick around for the whole fight just for shits and giggles so that he can, potentially they can do it again.
The money's in the rematch. Come on. You know this. If you ever promoted anything, the money's always in the second. The money's in the rematch. Ali Frazier? Nah. Ali Frazier too made money.
Yeah, there you go. All right. Any final soccer thoughts, Kevin?
No, I think we're good. Getting ready to watch Alexi Lalas this afternoon on FS1, which depending which game you're watching on TSN, you might hear. Anyways, and you can find ways to listen to Alexi.
What's Christian Jack here?
Yeah, exactly. We'll watch Christian Jack, but Alexi Lalas, I actually enjoyed watching him. The game last weekend, it was the Seattle game. Was it Kansas City? Yeah, it was Kansas City, Seattle. And it was a delayed game, and it was shown on TSN, the FS1 feed. JP did the camera on Alexi Lalas, and I did listen to that part where he did talk about the coaching aspect. And using Tata Martino as an example, he was talking about how those coaches come in with no inferiority complex, and teams with money, we've talked about this, the salary cap does not include the coaches. So if you want to make a difference with the money you have, if you want to make it competitive advantage for yourself somewhere else where you actually can, coaching, managing academies are one of the few places, and Atlanta decided to use them all. One of them was Tata Martino, and we've seen that example so far. But no, it's very interesting how American analysts, experts are viewing Toronto right now. Now you're not the only one, Duane, talking about how this might be the quote-unquote best team ever.
Yeah. Well, I had it pinned to my Twitter account for a while there. No, but I just to finish thought on the coaching thing, though. I think that, you look at a guy like Greg Vanney, you keep it in Toronto-centric for a second. He got a chance to sort of learn that job a little bit. You look at their 2014 season when he came in, they underachieved that year, right? So I don't know whether you're going to see many more Greg Vanneys get that chance through that year when you're talking about the top clubs in this league that are spending the most money. And that's how I'm defining top clubs right now, not necessarily on success. So relax your roll, folks. But, if you've got a club like LAFC, like LA Galaxy, like Seattle, Toronto, clubs that spend big, I think that moving forward, you're almost going to see like a second tier on the coaching side of things where the Greg Vanneys of the world are going to have to start at your Colorados. And that's with all due respect to Colorado. We just understand that they don't spend as much. So I think
why would you go there? Why would you kick somebody when they're already down? Come on.
All right,
you're not being fair to Colorado.
Exactly. You're right. I don't know. Columbus is whatever.
Nah, I'm just kidding.
It's teams that don't spend as much. I think that's going to be the case.
Hey, when you heard that speech by Steve Cook trying to motivate, like, yeah, it's a new beginning, new season. We can do this. We can turn things around. But more importantly, there's no more baggage. You can start with a clean slate, and we'll see how clean that slate stays after tonight.
Precisely. It's going to be interesting times down the stretch. Look, the business end of the season is when legends are made. And, we've looked back here in Toronto. It's been a very exciting run so far. And there's certainly are a lot of indicators that suggest it will continue. But I think everyone in this city and everyone that is a sports fan in this city especially recognizes that if they can't finish this job that they started, no one is going to remember this team for anything other than failure. So the pressure is on. They've handled it so far. We'll see how this works out. 3 games against the Impact down the stretch. It's going to be a fun time for rivalries, whether they're Heineken or not, moving forward.
Exactly. Getting slowly very excited by Sunday, but we'll have 2 more days to talk about it. Duane, anything else for today?
I think we're good. I'm looking forward to the Champions League draw on Thursday to find out, where my panic attacks for the next few months are going to be. I'm assuming that they're going to draw the same damn teams they always draw. So we'll see. But nonetheless, it'll be a fun week. And I love having the Champions League back. I love the fall. It's my favorite time to be a soccer fan because you have MLS stretch run. You have the excitement of the start of a Premier League season. You have the Champions League group stage where those Champions League midweek days when you can get off work and just sit there with 3 different screens going. They're the best, and this is the best time of year. So let's get out and enjoy it. I'm gonna get ready to go down to the Canadian National Exhibition, which is a giant fair, and watch some soccer tonight. And on that note, Kevin, I'll let you say goodbye.
Be careful what you eat. They put weird things on the stick over there. So be careful what you eat at the CNE. For Duane Rollins, I'm Kevin Laramee. You can follow Duane on Twitter at 24th Minute and myself at Kev Laramee. Thanks to Alexi Lalas for his time today. You can follow him at Alexi Lalas and see him on Fox Sports 1, FS1's coverage of Major League Soccer and soccer in general. Until tomorrow, as always, I'm Kevin Laramee, and have a great soccer.